This episode is sponsored by the Living Your Vision course for creating your optimal life. This course is for creating and fulfilling your dream. Make your dreams your reality instead of a someday idea. Set your vision for your life in motion. Move from trying to be just a little bit better and shift to deliberately creating the life you want at the level you want. Most people are not purposely thinking small. They just have never considered or allowed themselves to think bigger or even on an epic level. Even big thinkers, perhaps you're one of them, often say, I just don't have time to devote to developing a detailed vision of how I want my life to be. What's stopping you from creating your vision the way you really want it? What if you let go of anything that is stopping or blocking you? What if you stepped into your creative zone and designed a compelling vision that drove all of your daily habits and decisions? You can check out the Living Your Vision course at sherikayhoff.com. That's SherikayHoff.com. And you'll want to go to the coaching and courses tab. Hello. This is Sheri, and welcome to the Sheri Kaye Hoff Show, where we talk about living joyfully and successfully in your life and business. I have another fabulous guest with me here today, Dr. Lori Ann Roth. She is one remarkable woman. Let me tell you a few of the highlights, and then you can read more about her on my website. So Lori Ann Roth is the president of Learning and Reflective Growth that specializes in training and coaching. Her favorite saying is, be your best you. She has an undergraduate degree in psychology and communications, a master's in adult education, and a doctorate from Virginia Polytechnic Institute in Human Development. And she is a pilot pioneer, earning her certified professional in learning and performance from ATD. And she's recently come out with a book called The Journal Book, Your Journaling Journey. So welcome, Lori. I'm so excited that you're here today. How are you in beautiful, sunny Florida?
Oh, Sheri, I'm doing great. And it just rained. We had one of those morning, afternoon rain shower kind of things, but, and then it's sunny again. So just doing great in Florida, as they say, living the dream.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about your book, because you and I both believe in journaling. Journaling has totally transformed my life, changed my clients' lives. And to me, I look at journaling as an act of creating the life that you want, and also a way to capture maybe feelings that you weren't even aware were there. So let's talk about your book and the different kinds of journaling. So let's just dive in.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I knew I wanted to write a book, and I thought to myself, what am I going to write this book on? And then I have this fabulous business coach. You may know her. Her name is Sheri Kaye Hoff. And she says to me, right? And she says, why don't you write about what you know about best? And I'm like, training and development, blah, blah, blah. She goes, journaling. You journal all the time, Lori. You've got a whole bunch of journals. Why don't you do that? And I tell you, Sheri, this book wrote itself. It was quite amazing. I did a lot of research on it, but I've been journaling since I was 12 years old. And it happened by accident. It was way back when you can leave your children in the car alone and go shopping. And that's what my parents did. They went into the commissary, left me and my two sisters alone in the car, and they were gone for like 3 hours. So we had to bring stuff. Yeah, I know. You can't do that anymore, right? So I brought a book with me, and it had a horse on the cover, and I loved horse books. So I was 12 years old. I opened up the horse book, and guess what? There's nothing there. Nothing. No words. It was just a bunch of blank lines. And fortunately, I brought a pen with me. So I figured, okay, I'll just start writing. And that's where my journaling journey began.
Wow. That's a great story. And how intuitive that you just kind of knew what to do with it and jumped right in. And it's amazing you lived and I lived through that time when our parents left us in the car, or you had someone in the way back of a station wagon without a seatbelt sleeping on a sleeping bag.
Oh yeah, I remember those days. We went
We
cross country. My sisters and I went cross country with my parents twice in the back of a station wagon with lots of stuff and just bouncing around in the back.
Yep. No danger in that.
Right. Well, the thing about the journal book is I talk a little bit about why journal, sort of how to journal, but most of the book is made up of the many different types of journals. And it's interesting that you said it was sort of intuitive for me to pick it up, because a lot of people journal and they have absolutely no idea that they're journaling. Like they have no idea they're doing it. For example, there's a business journal, and I talk to a lot of executives because I do executive coaching, and like, yeah, I just kind of write things down after meetings and, what it was like and what I feel about, that meeting and who was there and that kind of thing. I'm like, you're journaling. Do you put a date on it? Is it in a book? They're like, yeah. Or, is it online? Do you take notes online? Yeah, that's journaling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many people actually journal and they have no idea that they're doing it.
I know one of the things that I run into is people worried about doing it wrong. And also people feeling like it has to be one journal in one place. So you have many journals. So talk about that and how multiple journals can actually help people.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, I started journaling, as I said, just a general journal, just writing down my thoughts, feelings, what I did that day, that kind of stuff. And the most important thing is always to write the date on the entry that you put the journal in. You write the date. And so it's evolved. So my journal is actually like a regular journal still, but I have my goals in it too. So I have my yearly goals in the first page of the journal. And at the back of that particular journal, I have what I call a prayer journal. And the prayer journal is if I'm thinking about something, I'm writing about something, and I find out that maybe, my friend Helga got cancer. So I write the date in the back. I said a date that I wrote the prayer, and I said, please help Helga with her cancer, help her get better. And then I put date answered, because I know that I'm going to get an answer, whether it's good or bad, I'm going to get an answer. And so when it happens, Helga came out of her cancer, she's doing better. And so I put the date down. And that's one journal that I use. And then I have something called a gratitude journal. And what I used to do, and this is so silly because I stressed out, like you were saying, like people think that they're doing it, wrong or right, or they're worried. And I'm not me. I'm just like, woohoo, I jump right in. Like I have no clue what I'm doing. And so I did this gratitude journal where I gave myself rules. Every single day, I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. So of course I put the date, I wrote the 10 things. And, I didn't realize this, but I got something called a gratitude burnout or journaling burnout. It's just, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I couldn't repeat them. So like after the second week, I'm like, I'm grateful for and I start looking around like trees, grass, air. And that's not right. And I read this book by, the guy's name is Dr. Emmons, Emmons. I don't remember his first name, but he wrote a book called Thanks, and another one, because he's all about researching gratitude. And he suggested that you write in a gratitude journal whenever you feel like it. And you only put 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for, but you put more detail about why you're grateful for it. So you can really feel the gratitude as you do it. And I thought, wow, this is like, I'm glad I read this book because now I can do it. So now I probably write in my gratitude journal about 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm not burned out anymore. And I just do it when I feel like it. But, and that really helped me. So actually learning more about journaling, but I say there's no wrong way to do it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely no wrong way to do it. Just dive right in. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important because, I've journaled mostly nonstop for 15 years and I've journaled on and off my whole life. But I've also had periods of like a month or more where I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Like, it just was like, and I felt like, geez, this is what I talk about. This is what I teach my clients. And then I just was like, well, I need to roll with it. I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, maybe it's I'm spending that time listening to music, or maybe, I have a lot of internal things working out. But it seems like even though maybe I get away from journaling every morning occasionally, I still am doing the writing things down thing, which is still journaling. But I use my gratitude process a little bit differently. What I do is I sometimes I do write, I'm so thankful for my soft, comfy pillow, because there are days when you wake up and you just don't feel grateful. And I know I have a ton to be grateful for. And so I write things that I'm grateful for until I actually really feel grateful. And so sometimes it might be one thing, sometimes it might be 100 things, but it's a practice in just sort of acknowledging the evidence around you of just how abundant we really are. And then I write thank you for things that haven't happened yet. Like, when before a doctor's appointment, 6 months before a major appointment, I wrote, thank you for my perfect lab results. I wrote it day after day after day after day. And for the first time in like 7 years, I had perfect lab results. So anything, it doesn't have to be $25,000 in one day or $50,000. It doesn't have to be the typical things. It can be things that are so important that we think we don't have any control over or direction, but we can be very intentional. So, and I love how just flexible it is. So what are, you also talk a lot about reflective journaling. So what is reflective journaling and how does that help people?
Well, for me, it's just there's a lot of journal prompts and a lot of books of journal prompts out there. So it's something that you really have to think about. Presently, I'm going through therapy right now, and I'm doing this inner child therapy. And I've heard about it for years and years, but I've never ever done it before. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go through the therapy. I meet with my therapist once a week. But sometimes she'll say something like, okay, I want you to think about a time in your childhood, blah, blah, blah. So then I sit with my journal and I really think about that. And I reflect on, the past, what happened, if there was something that I want to write down about, if I want to think about it. And I really I just write. I'm a writer, so I'll just write stuff down. It's just like train of thought stuff. It doesn't have to make sense. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about journaling too. It doesn't have to make sense. So later when I go back and read it, then I might pull something else out of it. And that's why I always date it, because I'm like, what was I thinking when I did that? Mm-hmm. So I can look back at it. But I love reflective journaling because it's basically that kind of thing. I want to think about what I'm going to do before I do it. And it helps you just figure out your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of coaching questions are reflective journaling questions when you're working with clients, and, like the, what would it look like if types of questions. And one of my favorites is what would it look like if everything worked out exactly the way that I want it to work out today? And I'm thinking, and then instead of thinking about everything that could go wrong or everything I'm worried about, I'm thinking, well, what would it actually be if everything worked out today? And that's a really cool coaching premise too. So, well, I know we have a lot to talk about. So I wanted to go into our next topic, which is one of your favorite premises and the way that you live your life and coach your clients is you can change your attitude and change your life. So my favorite, I love it. I love it. You change your story, you change everything about what's going on. So expand on that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually created a class called Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. And I've been doing it online as a class for a lot of my clients right now. I don't think I ever did it in person yet, but I've always done it as an online class. And it's a whole lot of different types of exercises that you can go through. For example, one of them is to change your attitude. One of the things is use your senses. and you think about what makes you the happiest, and you go through your senses. For example, what do you love to eat? And for me, it's wine and chocolate, the two top food groups.
Exactly.
So I just
I can't relate to that at all.
yeah, right. So I just think about, sitting down and having my wine and my chocolate and everything's good. And then I'm like, well, what do I like to look at? And just as much as I do, I love the beach. Like I absolutely love the beach. One of my favorite things to do is go to the beach, set up my umbrella, of course, put on my sunscreen, my glasses, my hat, my beach suit. No, I'm kidding. I just don't want sunburn because, skin cancer is a real thing. But I sit at the beach and I read, but then I don't just read. Sometimes I just stop and I take in everything with my senses. And that makes me so happy because, I'm looking at something I love, the ocean. I'm smelling the salt air. I'm hearing the birds. I mean, it's all inclusive. But sometimes, you can't go to that place or your happy place or whatever. So you're just like, okay, what can I do? So keep pictures near you, pictures of people that you love, keep those near you. So you can just look at that. So that's one of the exercises that I talk about in my class. And not only, do I talk about the exercises, but people actually do it. And that's the cool thing too, is that, through chat or people talking, they'll say something that I never thought of before. And I'm like, oh, wow, that makes you happy. Okay, there you go for it. Mm-hmm. And changing your attitude. And it really does change your life. And the reason I came up with something like that is because I have a sister who's, she used to be very negative. In fact, we used to call, when she was little, we used to call it the Kelly face. Because she would like scrunch up her face. They have another name for it now. It's RBF.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back then it was called the Kelly face. And she did it forever. And she got married. And one day her husband said, Kelly, why are you always so grumpy? Why do you always look like that? And she had no clue. Like she had no idea that she had a negative attitude and she was just bringing everybody down. And one day she decided to go to therapy. So she did. They went to marriage counseling. My sister's brilliant because it only took them 2 sessions with a marriage counselor. And she's like, oh, got it. Okay. Be positive. Wake up with that choice. I mean, she's smarter than most people because it takes a lot of people like practice to do that. Yeah. But it's almost like she flipped a switch. And so every day when she wakes up, she says, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have a positive attitude. It's a choice. And that has totally changed her life. And okay, her husband's thrilled too. Okay. So he's like really happy and her kids too. And I think her 3 dogs are like all happy as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think so much of life, maybe everything in life comes down to choice and realizing that in every moment we have choice in between, the stimulus, we've got that gap where there's choice in there. And so many people feel like they're powerless in a situation or that they're the result of whatever's happening around them. Like if it's loud, then all of a sudden they have to be stressed out. And we have those choices. We have choices on what we can do and how we can choose to respond to things. And again, that's a big coaching piece for people is recognizing that. So let's move into this idea of positive intelligence. We hear about emotional intelligence. We hear about IQ. So tell us what positive intelligence is and how people can practice it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it basically all comes down to mindfulness. I actually took this class on positive intelligence, becoming a positive intelligence coach right now. And positive intelligence basically means that you want your mind clear of negativity, because when you're relaxed and calm and thinking positively, then you're more creative, then you're better at work and you relax, you're not stressed, you can come up with better ideas. You can make those choices that you were talking about earlier with no stress or pressure. And one of the things about positive intelligence, the premise of it is that there's something they call the sage, which is like the angel on your shoulder. And then there's something called the saboteur, which is like the devil on your shoulder. And you're constantly going back and forth. You're positive, and then they're like, well, what about this, Lori? Have you thought about that? And that's going to bring you down. So you want to get rid of that little devil on your shoulder. I mean, it's nice to have a devil's advocate sometimes, but you don't want that person bringing you down. But it's basically trying to stay in that mindset and not having these amygdala hijacks all the time, where you're like, wow, 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 because that happens. And it could be just something like I'm reading an email and the email triggers me. And I'm like, that person, whoa, whoa. And I'm like going to go all crazy and start spinning. And positive intelligence basically tells you, stop, you're spinning. And there's a lot of exercises you do. For example, if you take your fingers, your fingertips, and just rub them together and concentrate on that feeling of your fingertips rubbing together, it takes the pressure off of everything going on and you're just concentrating on one thing. It's a form of mindfulness. Mm-hmm. And you can do that with all of your senses, again, like that. For example, my favorite is mindful eating, because I can take a piece of chocolate, of course, put it in my mouth, and then just like feel the texture, taste the yummy chocolate, and just relax with that. So with all this mindfulness, it helps you have a positive mindset. It helps you relax, de-stress, and then think creatively. And it's really cool because I've been using it with my coaching clients too. And they're like, gosh, Lori, you've always talked about this amygdala hijack and how to stop the stress, but putting this form of positive intelligence in there kind of brought it all together for me. It brought in the emotional intelligence. It brought in the mindset stuff. It brought in the stress management kind of stuff. And kind of wrapped it all up in a nice little bow and put it all together. So I really like the whole concept of positive intelligence. And it's relatively new, Sheri. It just started like about 5 years ago. This guy named Shirzad, he wrote the book called Positive Intelligence. And it's very interesting.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I like about it is that, a lot of, like, oh, you got to be positive is sort of, that choice of I'm choosing to be positive, but what if it's hard for people? And so having the exercises to, bring it home for them, I think is really key to it. And it's not about, to me, it sounds like anyway, that it is not about saying that there should never be any negative emotions, but it's a different approach to what's going on. I mean, you help yourself process through. And I know for me, when I'm stressed, I actually know when I'm stressed when I can't remember things, because I have a fantastic memory. And, if I can't remember the show that I watched the night before, I'm like, okay, I need to become more present, more mindful, because I'm in that stress mode. So
yeah, it's awesome that you have a trigger. Because with me, when I get stressed, my heart starts pounding. Mm-hmm. And I know when my heart starts pounding, I'm like, okay, there it is. So figuring out what that body thing that happens to you, whatever that thing is, you're like, okay, now I have to be more mindful. So let's figure that one out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. Love that.
Yeah, I get the stubbing my toe thing or dropping papers. Like also, like I could be hanging on to a stack of paper. Yes, there's still paper in my life. I'm not totally, but and it'll just go flying out of my hands. Nothing will happen. It'll just go, So when stuff like that starts happening, or you start bumping your elbow or something like that, then I'm like, okay, this means I need to get more present in my body and more mindful. So
that's funny. It wouldn't happen for me because I'm always a klutz. Like they don't call me Grace. I could never be like a server at a restaurant because stuff would just go flying all over the place. I trip over like nothing in the carpet or the floor. I'm just not graceful, but I'm trying to be. Like my mantra, one of my mantras is I'm elegant, intelligent, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I'm like, God, I'm not elegant, but I'm putting it in there for my mantra.
Yeah, I like it.
Listen, so like 5 months ago, somebody said, gosh, Lori, you're looking very elegant today. I'm like, I've been saying this for 7 years. And finally somebody said something.
It's working. Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, this has just been so awesome. And we could talk for hours and hours. We've known each other for so long. And I just adore you. You're one of my favorite people. So
right back at you.
So tell people how they can get a hold of you and what's the best way to kind of get started, and maybe give us because you work with a lot of corporations doing training and development, but you also have individual executive clients and individual professional clients. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just gave you a big assignment there. So just pick whatever you want to talk about.
Sure.
We'll see how people can find you.
Right. You can check out my website, which is larg.com. And that actually stands for Lori Ann Roth Goddess.com. But don't tell my husband because he thinks it stands for Garcia, which is his last name. So go to larg.com and you can check that out. You can also email me, lar@larg.com. See, again, lots of initials. And I've been doing a lot of workplace coaching recently. And usually I do leadership coaching or executive coaching, but I've been doing a lot of workplace coaching recently where people at work, it doesn't matter your job or wherever you are, they're having difficulty with somebody else in the workplace. So I kind of help them through that. And it's usually not a really long, I mean, I can work with somebody up to, like 10 weeks or just like 2 coaching sessions. And it's interesting because depending on the person and how well they want to really figure out the issue and what's going on, it could be really quicker or take a little bit longer. So that's always fun for me to do. I really love that. And also I do webinars sometimes on the weekends. So stay tuned for that too, but you can find out about that. And I've got a lovely blog on my website too.
Yeah, so much great information. And you're just a ray of sunshine. I mean, people can't see your face. I can see your face and it's just glowing. And I told you look like you were 30 and we know you're not. I'm not.
You know, I'm going to be 60 next year, don't you?
You're looking good, girl.
Thanks.
Well, I just want to remind everyone that you can check out resources at SheriKayhoff.com. That's SheriKayehOff.com. And you can see all the podcast episodes there and also get a bunch of cool free gifts, whether you're interested in affirmations or business training. It's there for you. And I just want to wish everyone a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, no matter where you are in the world. So much love coming from me. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.